come back to ACCA. Okay, so as an SBR tutor, what resources, study resources, nowadays we also have Study Hub, BPP. Earlier we used to have just two, now we have additional third, that is Study Hub. So how would you recommend students to use that material? Because when I was a student, I faced extreme difficulty that I need to study certain amount of chapters, then only I could move to the exam kit questions, because you don't have chapter wise question. You need to actually cover certain amount of area, then you will be able to solve exam kit questions. So how will you actually suggest students to do that?
It's not easy. It's not easy. There's almost TMI, too much information out there. And often people ask me, which is best, Kaplan or BPP? And I say, well, which do you prefer? Do you prefer rugby union or do you prefer rugby league? Do you like going on the beach for your holiday, or do you like going in the mountains for your holiday? I mean, what's your favorite dish? What's your favorite pop star? It kind of, in a way, doesn't matter whether you do the Study Hub, whether you do Kaplan, whether you do BPP. And I'm not trying to say they're all the same, but you can't do them all. And the risk of doing them all creates confusion. What I would say is there's a limit, because when you're studying that way, you're running the risk of absorbing. And remember, if we're exam focused, it's about application. So it's never ever enough to have the knowledge. It's how you use that knowledge, how you apply that knowledge, how you understand it, so that when it's presented to you in a different format, you recognize it. Because exams are challenging. Strategic professional exams are challenging. I'm not saying skills is easy, but skills is a little bit more knowledge based. Skills is a little bit more repetitive. Skills is a little bit narrower. And as we progress up the level, we're now at the sort of manager, director, strategic level. So yeah, it is harder. And question practice, you're right, question practice. The one resource that every student must absolutely love is TestReach, the ACCA practice platform, which is free, and that's where the past exams are. And I encourage my students not to practice the exams out of a kit, because that kind of implies they're writing the answer down, but actually do them live to time on the ACCA practice platform. So they're getting used to the functionality, because it's not Excel. It's not Word. There's no spell check. Students have to become comfortable with the functionality and the processes around the exam.
That's amazing. Actually, just a follow-up question. I actually saw TestReach, and every student see that, but the amount of questions there will be obviously less than the amount of questions covered in KIT. So as a tutor, do you think a student will be satisfied to solve that amount of questions? There will be something in students' brain that, is that amount of practice enough, or I need to do more?
There's quite a lot of questions in the kit. There's quite a lot of questions on the ACCA practice platform. When you look at the past questions, when you look at the specimen questions, yeah, I mean, how much is enough? How much is enough? This is a very philosophical question. One of the things that I battle sometimes with students is they try and do 2 strategic professional exams at one go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, never do 2 exams in one sitting. That's the rule. Now, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but really, really think very, very carefully, because you have a life, you cannot live and breathe ACCA 24/7, all right? And the pressure could get to you, and the risk of doing 2 exams is you get 45 in both, So yeah, you got to pace yourself, and you've got to prioritize yourself.
Exactly. And in that kit question, less is more. So if you are following the TestReach, the less is more is always applied.
Yes, I think yes. You're never going to work the question that is there in the exam. You know,
Will always be surprises in exam,
yeah,
no matter
yeah.
how much you practice.
And in that immediate build up to the exam week, in that immediate in the last few days, you've got to have a warm down. You know, what do you think Muhammad Ali did the night before a big fight? I think he had an early night, don't you? I think he had a good night's sleep. He was not going on a long run the night before a big fight, or even a week before the big fight. He was in peak condition because he had put the work in, in the build up. He'd done the tuition, he'd done the revision. And so this panic at the end, no, we need to be calm as we glide into the exam, remembering the basics, thinking about it, making sure we understand, we know what we know. I think the vast majority of students go into the exam with enough knowledge to get 50%. They have enough knowledge to pass.
I agree.
And what can inhibit them is their insecurity that they don't have 100% knowledge. And what can inhibit them is they don't know how to use the knowledge that they have in the context of the question, of exam technique, and to know what they can do right, and to know how they can improve. And that's why built into my courses is always marking, is always feedback, so that the individual knows on an individual basis how they can improve what they're doing good, and that builds their confidence. Now, not everybody can come on my course. I appreciate that, but having a study buddy, if you're an independent self-studier, you've got to do answers to time. Why not show those answers to a colleague at work? Why not show those answers to a friend? Why not show those answers to your partner? Now, they may or may not be an accountant. Ideally, they are an accountant. Is it clear? Is it broken down? Is it logical? The idea is that in exams, we're communicating not with other nerds, not with other experts. We should be communicating to our marketing director and our shareholders, who don't quite understand why profit doesn't equal cash, who don't quite understand what a group is and why that company is a subsidiary when you only own 40% of it. Well, a good exam answer is self-explanatory. It's not, dare I say it, like the answers in some of the kits we've been talking about. The examiner's answers and those official published answers are often intimidating. They're not wrong, but they're intimidating. And they're not what the student needs to do to pass the exam. It's a bit like watching Lionel Messi.
Exactly.
We can't be Ronaldo. We can't be Lionel Messi. Yet we can still be a footballer. We can still pass the exam without all those brilliant, lengthy, detailed answers. We need to be more structured. Anyway, I ramble on. We could talk all day.
I agree. You actually summed up the whole thing. It's in a very nice manner. I hope now our viewers understand. It's like I have 15 guests repeating same things, but you actually summed up all my 15 podcast episodes. Now, guys, you need to understand. Please do not stick to the examiner's answer. It's like a person must have, invested 4 to 5 hours just writing a one answer. And you need to write 100 marks paper in 3 hours. So you need to understand that as well. And
you're right. You're absolutely right.
Right. And also, actually, I evaluate, mocks. So sometimes students come up, ma'am, it's like 5 days to exam. Should I start doing technical articles? And I'd be like, please calm down. Whatever you know is okay. Do not touch any new topic. It's okay if you left. We'll see next attempt if you don't pass, but please don't do it now. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I have a phrase as we get towards the end, which is about revising your revision. As you've done your revision,
right,
what do you do at the end? Well, you do your revision again.
right.
you do remember. You have to remember what you do know. There is no point in 48 hours out from the exam suddenly saying, "Oh, I never really understood hedge accounting. I've studied it. I've revised. I never really understood it. Let me now try and crack, this topic, you just kind of have to, I don't know, let it go and see the big picture, don't you?
Exactly.
At the last minute, at the last minute.
Yeah, actually, I use a phrase for my all students. It's like when you have polished the doors, repolish them to actually make them more, nicer instead of polishing a new door and make it worse. So it's like polish your concepts that you already know instead of, going into the new area. So yeah, that's a very, very insightful thought that you just shared. Now, sticking to